Thousands of people around the world have stopped mid-sentence when seeing the same image. Perfect geometry carved into open fields, appearing suddenly without witnesses. These formations were not small or subtle. They were massive, precise, and symmetrical, and they arrived without explanation, triggering immediate assumptions before questions could form. When something looks disordered, the human mind rarely asks how it was made. It asks who was responsible. Order feels intentional, and intention is quickly mistaken for intelligence. That reaction is not cultural. It is biological. Our brains are wired to detect patterns quickly because in nature, patterns often mean agents. Crop circles did not convince the world through evidence. They convinced through appearance, by exploiting how easily perception outruns verification. What mattered was not the shape in the field, but the reaction it triggered. In that moment, perception moved faster than reason, and belief formed before evidence could follow. Crop circles are patterns formed by flattened crops in open fields. In agricultural regions, tall grain reveals large shapes from above. From the ground, they feel ordinary, but from the air, they appear deliberate. What gives these formations their power is not mystery, but geometry. Circles, spirals, and radial symmetry dominate their designs. Shapes the human brain instantly recognizes as ordered. Many of the most famous crop circles are enormous. They stretch across hundreds of meters of farmland. At that scale, human effort is often underestimated. Seen from above, the patterns appear mathematically precise. Seen from the ground, the process that formed them disappears. The result is judged, not the method. This creates a gap in perception. The eye registers complexity. The mind fills in intention. And intention is often mistaken for intelligence. What we respond to is not how difficult the pattern was to make. We respond to how difficult it feels to imagine being made at that scale. The impression forms before any thought of process or effort. This is the first illusion crop circles create. Visual complexity is mistaken for technical complexity. The appearance feels advanced, even when the method behind it is not. The human brain does not measure effort. It measures appearance and surface order. At large scale, that appearance can feel overwhelming and deeply misleading. The human brain is built to recognize patterns faster than it recognizes facts. This ability evolved for survival, not accuracy. Seeing order quickly once meant staying alive. Symmetry holds a special place in human perception. Balanced shapes immediately feel intentional rather than accidental. They suggest planning, foresight, and a level of control that the mind associates with intelligence. When symmetry appears without context, the brain fills in the gap on its own. It assumes an agent behind the pattern, something that intended this arrangement to exist. This tendency is known as hyperactive agency detection. It is the same instinct that sees faces in clouds and intent in coincidence. The mind would rather be wrong than unprepared. Scale intensifies this effect dramatically. Small patterns feel decorative and harmless. But when those same patterns grow massive, they feel deliberate, commanding, and even authoritative. The larger the structure becomes, the harder it is to imagine human hands behind it. At that point, difficulty of imagination begins to replace careful evaluation of evidence. This is where perception outruns reasoning. The brain reacts before it verifies. The order is accepted first. Explanation comes later, if at all. Crop circles exploit this gap in perception with precision. They do not need to demonstrate intelligence or advanced capability. They only need to appear intelligent long enough to shape belief. Visual complexity does not require complex tools or advanced technology. Simple rules, applied repeatedly and with consistency, can create results that feel sophisticated and advanced. The brain rarely breaks patterns apart into their individual components. It reads them as a single whole, and that whole feels far more sophisticated than the simple parts beneath it. This is not a flaw in human thinking. It is a cognitive shortcut It usually works well and saves time. But under the right conditions, that shortcut can be carefully misled. Crop circles succeed because they speak the brain's native language directly. Pattern, scale, and silence work together without explanation. No message is required for belief to begin forming. Many crop circles are described as appearing overnight. That single detail quietly amplifies disbelief, more than any shape or pattern ever could on its own. Overnight suggests speed. Speed quickly suggests advanced technology. And technology, in turn, suggests something beyond ordinary human effort. But human intuition consistently misjudges how fast coordinated work can be. This is especially true when that work leaves no visible trace of the process behind it. This is known as time compression bias. We instinctively assume that large results must require long durations, even when available evidence clearly suggests otherwise. When the process is unseen, the result begins to feel impossible. The absence of witnesses quietly becomes part of the illusion itself, reinforcing doubt rather than explaining it. Darkness, distance, and open land work together to conceal effort. They hide the work itself, while leaving the final outcome fully intact. Human memory fills the gap with assumptions almost automatically. If no one saw it happen, the mind begins to treat it as something that could not have happened at all. This is not evidence of an extraordinary origin or unknown force. It reflects a limitation of human imagination when faced with uncertainty and incomplete information. Difficulty imagining a process is not proof that the process is impossible. It simply reveals that human imagination has limits when evidence is incomplete. The illusion grows stronger as scale increases. The larger the formation becomes, the less believable ordinary human effort appears to the mind. At that point, perception begins to replace analysis. The mind stops asking how something happened and quietly starts accepting mystery by default. Crop circles rely on this precise moment of hesitation. It is the brief window where disbelief feels easier and more comfortable than seeking a clear explanation. They do not need secrecy or advanced concealment. They only need enough scale to outrun imagination before careful reasoning has time to respond. And once imagination fails to keep pace, belief quietly steps in to fill the space. It settles where uncertainty remains, long before evidence has a chance to arrive. Beyond perception, crop circles are often supported by physical claims. Bent stems, unusual plant behavior, and soil changes are cited as evidence. These details sound technical, but they still require careful scrutiny. One common claim involves crops that appear bent rather than broken. This detail is often described as unnatural, even surgical. But plants are not rigid materials. Young cereal crops can bend without breaking under sustained pressure. Moisture, growth stage, and timing all affect how plants respond to force. None of this requires exotic explanations. Other claims point to changes in soil or radiation. These measurements are often inconsistent, poorly replicated, or taken after disturbance has already occurred. In science, extraordinary claims demand consistent results. Single measurements without controls rarely survive repeated testing. Crop circle data often fails this basic requirement. What remains is not strong evidence, but selective attention. Details that support mystery are highlighted, while ordinary explanations are quietly ignored. This is a familiar pattern in human reasoning. Once belief forms, data is filtered through it. Confirmation feels easier than contradiction. Crop circles do not withstand scientific scrutiny because they were never designed to be examined that way. They were designed to be seen first, not measured, tested, or repeatedly verified. The absence of reliable physical anomalies does not weaken the phenomenon. It clarifies it. The power of crop circles is psychological, not material. Geometry functions as a visual language the human brain understands instantly. Circles, symmetry, and repetition communicate order without words. meaning is inferred before analysis begins. Because this language feels universal, it is often mistaken for communication. Patterns appear to say something, even when no message exists at all. Humans are meaning-making creatures. When faced with structured forms, the mind searches for intent, purpose, and sender. Silence becomes an invitation to interpret. This is why patterns are so persuasive. They bypass explanation and speak directly to intuition. The brain reacts long before skepticism can engage. Crop circles do not transmit information in any measurable way. They trigger interpretation instead. The difference between the two is subtle, but critically important. Natural systems do this as well. Snowflakes, crystals, and coastlines display structure without intention. Pattern alone is never proof of intelligence. Crop circles feel advanced because they borrow the visual vocabulary of intelligence. But vocabulary alone does not equal authorship. Crop circles do not reveal visitors from elsewhere. They reveal something closer and more familiar, the way the human mind responds to order before evidence arrives. Symmetry, scale, and silence combine into a powerful trigger. They bypass skepticism and activate belief, not because they prove anything, but because they feel meaningful. The mind is not built to wait for verification. It evolved to decide quickly, often with limited information. That speed once protected us. Here, it misleads. Belief does not require deception or manipulation. It only requires uncertainty and a pattern convincing enough to quietly fill the gap left by missing information. Crop circles endure not because they resist explanation, but because explanation feels less satisfying than mystery, especially when the mystery looks this precise. This pattern repeats far beyond fields of grain. Wherever order appears without context, assumptions follow. Meaning is assigned long before understanding. Skepticism is not disbelief, it is restraint. The discipline to separate what feels convincing from what can be demonstrated. Crop circles remind us that perception is powerful, but always incomplete. What we see can feel convincing, yet seeing is never the same as truly understanding. The world does not need unknown intelligence to be misunderstood. Human cognition on its own is already capable of producing confusion when patterns and uncertainty collide. In the end, the most enduring mystery was never in the field itself. It was in how easily the human mind filled silence with certainty, long before understanding could catch up.